The best. None whatsoever.
Voter fraud. Starbucks gets festive. Congressman Cloud will join us. All that and more coming up on today's Wade and Carter Show.
Today was Wade and Carter's show. So it was Wade and Carter's show. Like you say,
Nothing to look forward to.
No touching of the hair or face.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Let's do this. Jump right into this. We got a big show. Big show.
The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by our great friends at Deerland Feed. We say for everything you need, there's Deerland Feed.
All your ag needs, all your
Pesticides, fertilizers, baby chicks, saddles.
Yeah, they got some chicks in. Pet needs, they got it all.
Cattle prods. You got an unruly wife, that'll teach her.
Sweet feed. It's all there.
59 degrees in Victoria, heading to a high today of 82. These clouds are going to burn off. There was like some low, like some 200-foot fog. Did you see it when you were coming in? It kind of looks like sheets of clouds going by, and then it's going to burn off early this morning and be a beautiful day.
Yeah, I had to let a dog out at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was very foggy, so I was expecting a much foggier ride in.
I mean,
wasn't there?
82 in November I'll take climate change. I got a buddy who lives in Elkhart, Indiana. I talked to him the other day, and he said, I was joking. I said, y'all got snow on the ground? Well, we've had some flurries, but it's only 46 today. I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't imagine. And to our friends in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, we haven't said much lately. Thank you so much. We appreciate you listening. We know so many of you check in later in the day as suits your schedules, and we appreciate the feedback that we get from you folks. I can't imagine the feeling of, is that bothering you? Because it's just temporary until Congressman Cloud gets here.
Okay. I forgot. Yeah.
And in our new studio, folks, you're not going to believe the news. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
We're not going to believe it.
No.
I don't.
I don't believe it until I see it.
Let's see who's in. Jeremy Pena's in. Oh, let's go back to the top.
I can't imagine snow where you walk out one day and pick a day. You walk out November the 18th, and you know it's going to be there until March.
Yep.
All of November, all of December, January, February, and sometime in March it's going to stop, and then it's still going to snow occasionally until June.
The only good thing in Calgary is
the Calgary Stampede, but they put that off.
Well, they do salt the roads.
So that's good for your car.
Yeah, well, yeah. But you buy an aluminum F-150, you don't have to worry about that.
There you go. Until the frame falls out of it. Body looks great. Frame falls off.
But you have the Chinook winds, which warm things up. So at least the sidewalks clear.
The streets clear. Like the Chinook winds?
Oh, yeah. He calls that global warming. That's how smart he is.
He's a genius. Yeah. That's why he was in Titanic, because he's so smart. I thought it's because he was pretty.
Yeah. And sometimes if it comes along early enough, it'll melt what's on the ground. But yeah, for the most part,
right.
It's on the grass. And I mean, there are people who just wait for a Chinook instead of shoveling their walk.
There you go. And don't you hate those people?
Yes.
Everybody ought to shovel their walk.
Well, because it's really not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. It's a safety hazard.
Is that kind of how you tell people to mind their own business? Shovel your walk, buddy.
Exactly.
Shovel your own walk.
Here's your shovel.
Give us the crackdown.
Patrick Strauss, Scott Tomko, Marvin Mickish, C.W. Bean, Judge Posey. Good morning, Bobby Leister, Heather Monroe checking in. 339 YouTubers according to Leisterometer. Andy Rhea Jr., Brad Miner likes my sleeves.
No, he likes my sleeves.
Likes your sleeveless.
There's nothing to show off over here. I just am going to go to the gym after the show, and I'm too lazy to. I was dressing in the dark, man.
Looks like it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Brad Miner, Lisa Poole, Matt Boucher, Michelle Hawkins, Chris Conrad, Richard King, Lisa Poole, Didn't get the notification this morning. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that. I didn't either. Let's see if it's there now.
Trey Molina checking
now
in.
It's there. So just they're late on the notifications. It's kind of like ballot counting in Arizona. It takes
Nevada.
a while to get done. Trey Molina, good morning. Amanda King, Amanda Smith King, Adam Daughtry, Christina Wise, Jeremy Pena, Scott Snow, Robin Moore-Knipling, Justin Glass, Scott Tomko, Jason Brannon, James
one of these
Kirk.
days, hi, Jason Brannon. One of these days, the show's going to be too big to read this roll call.
That'll be all the show does.
Right? And thank you. Drive safely.
Ron Koshin,
Hi, Ronnie.
Jeff Fonseca,
Mr. Hartman.
Janelle Sarles. What did Jeff Fonseca says? You're putting on a gun show with that T-shirt.
Right?
Nah,
yeah.
really.
Oh, yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
all real. Sure.
Pasty white.
I get a little edgy with my new cycle of roids, but other than that.
Good thing they don't kick in until.
Wouldn't it be great if like refried beans just bulked you up in a positive way? Like, where'd you get those pecs, Veracruz? Refrieds?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I mixed a little queso and got these abs.
Hang on. I'm trying to arrange for an interesting call because this is interesting. So hopefully, Brad Miner says it is a pellet gun, but it works. Christy Henry checking in.
Thank you.
Well, so CBS announcing some of their favorites, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, some of those classic sort of claymation
racist. They're all racist.
will be aired on the network. So that's good because we were hearing that the networks weren't going to show anything this year, but
because
it had all been swept up by the streaming services.
Hey, hello, Christy Henry. She said she misses us. That's good.
I'm trying to find where.
So we're waiting for this phone call from Keegan Meyer. So let me tell you something. This is a good time for me to tell you.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman will be on CBS this holiday season, which is awesome.
I have been appropriately relaxed on the Victoria Advocate. They've done a good job. We like George Coleman, and everything's been fine. I like them fine. But, oh, really? Adam Daughtry just renamed the guns Biden and Harris. Said they'd both be weak. One's got no muscle memory, and the other one, yeah. So what the Advocate did today that I find offensive, and I have to share it with you. Quit laughing. This is very serious.
So Vaughn says it's Casual Friday. Rick Vaughn is co-hosting.
Wow. I find this offensive. I'm curious if any of you do as well, or do you even notice what the media tries to do to shape your thoughts? That's my question to you. Do you even notice? It's so subtle. So the Advocate runs on the front page, left column, the will of the voters, in parentheses, in quotation marks, election integrity hit with unsupported complaints. Then they give you 3 names on this byline. It took 3 people to write this article, all right? But it's an AP, it's an Associated Press article, not written by the Advocate, but promoted on the front page above the fold of the Victoria Advocate, Washington AP. With votes still being counted across the nation, President Donald Trump on Thursday sought to undermine confidence in the nation's election, making unsupported accusations from the White House about the integrity of the results in his race against Democrat Joe Biden. Hours earlier, Biden offered reassurance that the counting could be trusted, projecting a more presidential appearance while urging patience from Americans. So Biden projects. He's presidential. He's reassuring. He's talking about patience.
Trump bitches.
Trump's hasty.
Yeah.
Trump seeks to undermine with no proof.
And
you understand that? And you just read that and you go.
Here's the ignorance of these AP reporters. There are enough videos that circulated on social media last night, and they're a couple of days old, from Detroit alone. And you know they have a stable of reporters in the AP in Detroit of Republican poll watchers not being allowed into the voting center,
which, by the way,
in Detroit,
is federal law.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, this is nice. We just don't have enough room to accommodate you. It's federal law. I'm going to throw this back to you, Ash. How much of Detroit would still be standing if Joe Biden had held a slim lead in, say, Detroit? And, well, this bag of votes showed up, 250,000 votes, and 220,000 of them went to Donald Trump.
And you
He's
weren't
trying to steal the election.
And you weren't allowing Democrat vote counters in to observe the process. How much of
Detroit would still be standing?
None. They're counting on the passiveness of Republicans.
Republican apathy is what they're counting on.
And this goes back to all the lawsuits in the spring about allowing for mail votes, changing up processes, no ID needed, signatures don't need to be verified, ballot harvesting can take place. They set it all up then to get to this end point now, where now all these things are happening. And they were trying to blame the COVID in Detroit on this video that I saw. And the guy had a very simple explanation. Well, then take 15 of those Democrats out of there, let 15 of us in, your COVID situation is solved.
And Trump knew this was coming. I've been told, I have no way to verify this. I would think it'd be amazingly interesting. As Ash would say, interesting, if it's true that all these ballots have a watermark on them. And if they start looking at ballots that are voted for Biden that don't have watermarks on them, you're going to know that there's something fishy going on.
Or is it the other way? The watermark is the fake ballot. I don't know. I've never heard. I haven't used a paper ballot since I left the motherland.
Right. And who does? I think what you're going to see in 2024, I said this yesterday, is there needs to be an extension. You can go back as far as you want. When you go back to September 1st and start doing absentee voting, okay? I mean, or voting. I'm sorry, not absentee, but early voting. If you know who you're going to vote for, and you're not worried about the October surprise, you're not worried about any of the stuff that's going to come up in September or October, then you can go in and vote as early as you want, all the way up until the Friday before the election on that Tuesday. I'm all for that. If you need to request a mail-in ballot, you can request that ballot either online or in person or in the mail and get your own ballot that way, like the elderly folks have done forever. Other than that, you need to vote in person. If you're not voting in person, then you're not voting. And I think our nation owes to us an efficient way to vote. Maybe shame on the government. You know, we go in, we use a digital deal. They give you a Q-tip, boom, boom, boom. You vote in 5 minutes and you're out. If you can't do that in Port Lavaca, shame on the federal government.
Well, I think it's states.
Okay, then shame on the state of Texas. That's what I'm saying. Somebody's got to be to blame. You're right. It's states manage the voting process. Then let's coordinate it. Let's have a standard.
I think states set the standards.
There's a Russian company that can monitor it all, right? Just set it up. All goes to Moscow, tabulate it.
Actually, I think it's a Spanish company, and George Soros has a piece of it.
Right.
So
there you go. Yeah.
We'll get all the conspiracy theories going, but
the Kamala Tola. You know what you call her?
No, that's what I heard somebody else call her yesterday. Kamala Tola, yeah. But the biggest, how do these states, I mean, the smell test just isn't passing for me here. When have states just stopped counting? When has it taken days for Arizona to count 50,000 ballots? Never.
No. This is all politics. The point now.
No, it's not even politics. This is actually, this is blatant election fraud now, in my opinion. The fact that you're not allowing people in to watch the process.
Which actually is going to discredit those votes. I think we're heading towards a big, huge recount. Bye, Mr. Alvarez.
Yeah,
take care,
probably. Or a revote.
Well, why not a revote? Let's get a do-over. Let's get a do-over.
When you're starting to see reports of more people voting than actually than registered voters in certain areas,
we need to have a vote that people, whether they like the results or not, that they accept with some confidence. I don't think that my comment about the article in the Advocate is it is certainly not reflective of the populace of this county.
No.
To run that article above the fold on page 1 of the Victoria Advocate
Filled with opinion,
is just
Biden appears presidential. That
it's
isn't
dumb.
a fact.
Biden was much more presidential. He appeared presidential. How can you, the president, whether you like him or not, he's the one that's presidential.
Yep.
He's the president.
But that's been a narrative that's been out there. Well, Trump isn't presidential. Well, look at define presidential.
TLAT, bam, comes in with the hard line that I like a lot. We haven't even discussed this. She says, revote in person with an ID. I like that. You can, throw Granny in the wheelchair, tell her to get her license, and let's go on down there and vote. Good call, Dawn.
In a country that is so tech savvy, so mobile, we'll spend hours on a highway getting to and from work every day. We have no problem buying our groceries. And there's so many people afraid to go vote in person. Give me a break.
They're not afraid. They were directed that way.
Yeah.
And you heard this early on in the process, not in Victoria.
Power through my coffee quickly this morning.
Not in, I hope that doesn't, it's not like a colonic, but not in Victoria County, but you did hear of the stack of IDs where people would show up to vote and they would get an ID, give them that ID and a ballot.
Yeah.
Come on, man. And come on, Victoria Advocate, your news, while being unbiased, doesn't need to be biased the other way. It needs to reflect the community in which you serve.
I'm curious, I didn't get it. Was there a retraction from the blatant mistakes?
No, I have not seen anything from when they said that Joe Biden had 70% of the vote. I mean, I get it. The press is liberal, and our press is liberal. But like we said, you had one job. They did have Michael Cloud's race right. And they did have, I think, Lois Kolkhorst or Jeannie Morrison correct. But they did not have, they had Joe Biden leading with 70% of the vote, and they had Ashley Hernandez only having like 25% of the vote.
Yeah. Good morning, Wade and Carter.
Who we got?
Kevin Myers, how are you, sir?
What's going on? You have a story? We're doing great, sir.
Hey, congrats to your brother for winning Lavaca County Judge handily, I might add. Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that feels like. I have no idea.
Me either. Yeah, you're not on call to go to the crash scene at 3 a.m. as county judge. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, he was on the show with the Kingmakers, and naturally he won. Yeah.
So.
You're looking good. We've got another guy that basically owes it all to us. Michael Cloud will be here in a few minutes, and he. Not the first to admit that he owes it all to us, but behind the scenes, his staffers at least acknowledge that we make the statement.
Yeah.
He doesn't really give us the.
He's a good man.
That's the whole deal. And it's I did grow up, and I've told Michael this. I grew up with a father that said, I've seen a lot of poor men go to Washington. I've never seen a poor one come back. And my dad said, I've seen a lot of good men go to Washington, but very few good men come home. And Michael Cloud has made a commitment. It's in everything that he talks about to his family, to his faith, and to our communities. And Michael Cloud is one of the good ones. And in fact, Ash and I mused here early on that maybe Michael Cloud was too nice a guy to be in Congress, that maybe he would get tread upon. the reality is just the opposite. Men like Jim Jordan have sought his counsel. They respect his opinion, and they've given him, tasks of authority that Michael Cloud has excelled in. So we're very excited to have him on the show, and his reputation in Washington is growing. So very, very proud of him.
Yeah. Now, Kevin.
Don't tell him though.
We'll tell him. We'll tell him later. We'll tell him in a little bit. But yeah, your Aunt Betty has a question I'm going to have for Congressman Cloud when he comes in, so we'll save it.
We will.
But Kevin, you have an interesting story, and I saw it this morning when I woke up, and I haven't known anybody who's been in your predicament, and I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you, knowing the love you had for your late wife. But tell our listeners the story, because this is appalling and needs to
That's her.
Well,
Right.
No. Proxy voting in Congress right now. And I believe there's a link, and you have to put in. Yeah, and I believe you have to put in your birth date as well. So the odds that somebody has the exact same name as your late wife and her birth date, probably pretty slim.
In that county. Let me ask you this, Kevin. Is there any way to literally track down her ballot and see who that person voted for? Very interesting.
Yeah. Now the other question, because of
Jack Parr.
Yeah. Now you said you've been an election judge and you've observed the process. So have you ever seen anything like the viral videos that are going crazy of people being turned away when they're there to do their job of observing the process?
Georgia.
Yes.
Yes.
Georgia. Yeah. You would think with technology, yeah, I mean, that would be the most transparent way to, to probably do it, but I don't know. That to me is more surprising probably than anything else is those videos of just not allowing poll watchers because they're Republican into the buildings to watch the process take place. That to me is more apparent of voter fraud or at least some funny business, if not outright fraud, than anything else. And that has me more concerned for the sanctity of our elections. I mean, this is turning into third world rigged election status very quickly.
Well, but now it's okay, Kevin. It's okay because it's how we feel. It's all about our feelings, and it just feels right.
And Biden feels more presidential.
Biden's more presidential. Trump's just disgruntled. It just feels right to have Joe and the Kamala Tola in there. It just feels right. Tell you what we've got to do, or what we need to do. We're gonna get you to
appreciate the call
us.
And let us know if you find out something different,
yes.
Kevin, and that there, that you're.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Who voted, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, God bless you. Nice. That's a throwback.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
So, well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Keep us posted on how that investigation goes. Let us know if you get stonewalled along the way, because then there's obviously some issues,
take notes on your process, and
yeah.
Well, if we find you laying somewhere next to Vince Foster, we'll go ahead and follow up on behalf. But do this. Keep listening. Right.
Yes, I know.
Keep listening. And we're going to, he voted, by the way, Epstein voted for Biden. And we're going to have the congressman come in here and clear up some things in just a second. So thank you for the call, brother. Take care. Yes, sir. Bye-bye. That's Kevin Myers, great fan, I'm a fan. He's a friend of the show. He's a
interesting story, though. And what are the odds? Same name in the precinct. I went on yesterday and verified that everybody in my households vote was capped.
Who did Stanley vote for?
Yeah.
By the way, I love that Jeff Fonseca. See, we have these weird things going on. Jeff Fonseca, could you go back up 2 comments? Now we're having a serious conversation with a man about voter fraud, and one of our top fans says, "I have some sweet linen pants from Banana Republic." What is that even in response to?
Chris Conner saying this is a Banana Republic style election.
There you go. Deep thoughts. BJ Nelson said something. Gail Turk Rice said something. Pete McNally probably is celebrating a Biden victory.
Gail Rice is just wondering why when a person passes away, the death certificate can't negate a person's voter registration.
You know, it could. I've never understood why they can't put your health insurance information on the back of your driver's license. They all have that. They've all got that magnetic strip now. Why not? Why can't I just go in there and upload Humana onto the back of my driver's license? They got everything else on there.
Yeah.
Crazy. So let us do this, folks. Let us take a quick break so we can have uninterrupted time with Congressman Michael Cloud. The man's been through 14 elections in the last 3 years. Just continues to win. It's like Mariano Rivera in the postseason. I mean, he's just a given. You get him into the 8th inning, bam,
done.
Game over. So here we go. We're going to tell you, first of all, today's a great day to dial 578-HOME. I was able yesterday to take Charlie Garcia and the folks at USA Foundation Repair and turn them over to another one of our sponsors. Very excited about that. So 578-HOME, Charlie Garcia can level your slab and or put down a really sparkling polyurethane coating that's antimicrobial, antibacterial, that'll last better than anything made out of epoxy into a garage floor, a pool surface, a front porch, a patio, tomato, and like a kid's room where you're just tired of the mess, where you want the kids to be able to play and just go in there and mop it up. There you have it. Reach out to 578-HOME, Charlie Garcia. Please tell him Wade and Carter sent you. Get a quote for that. Win services, win electrical. I've told you before, if you've got a corporate building, you have a business building that you own, get in there today, get a quote, and Carl Wendt will show you how to back into it. There's government credits, huge deducts the first year. This next year coming out of COVID, you're going to see a real surge in sales. And
nice play on words, talking electricity.
There you go. And depending on how the election goes, either way, you're going to want tax credits. Either you're going to make a bunch of money and you're going to need a credit with Trump, or Biden's going to take a bunch more money and you're going to need all the write-offs you can get. So get a hold of him, because if you're doing solar panels on top of a corporate building, there are great governmental incentives still in place for you. Trust me. Call Carl Wendt if you own a building. The Gray Barn. Reach out to Cheryl. You just want to have a party, a reunion, a really classy office meeting, an annual sales meeting. You want to have a year-end celebration. You want to have an early next year 2021 kickoff. Reach out to Gray Barn, 920-6803. Cheryl can make it memorable, and you'll be the star of your company for putting it together. Cater it. Cheryl often does with Uncle Mud's Barbecue. Brisket, ribs, chicken, sausage, turkey. Do it. They open about 11. They're doing some in-house dining right now. It's all socially distanced. They've got tables that are closed. Get in there and tell them Wade and Carter sent you. It's the best tea in town.
And they'll be open until about 8 o'clock today.
Yep. Quick shout out to GDP Techs, our buddy Dwayne Proctor, 550-4744. Handles all your laptop problems. 550-4744. Compadres Design. Compadres Design does all of our banner swags. That's Ash's hat. The banner behind us. All of that great stuff comes from Compadres.
Your wife beater?
Yeah, my wife beater t-shirt, sure. The Eisenhower dealership since 1926. Quite frankly, Victoria's dealership. There's nobody even challenges that. We started saying that here 3 years ago. Nobody challenges that.
That'sanover.com.
Chevy, Cadillac, Mazda, Mitsubishi, all the pre-owned, paint and body, service all makes and models. If every other dealership in town went away, you'd still be fine with Thatsanover and Thatsanover.com.
You want Veracruz this weekend? Give them a call. Order your enchilada casserole this morning so you can take it home tonight, 576-6015.
Tell you what else you can do. You can wait till 5, 6 o'clock tonight, go in there and say, I need 2 or 3 pounds of fajita meat. It'll keep all weekend. Nothing better than a quick, in the morning, get up, scramble a couple of eggs, throw in some fajita. Great.
And White Trash Services. BJ and Scott Nelson got their bid in for city commercial waste service.
I hope Scott's sleeping late. They had the Go Texan event last night, and he chaired that. Fantastic family. 550-1826.
They can handle all your trash collection needs in Victoria County and the 5 surrounding counties, including Rockport and Holiday Beach.
So we'll pick up Razor IT and the others after we visit with the congressman.
Let's bring Congressman Cloud in. Look at it. He's busy.
He's like, what is this new throwback, no entourage Michael Cloud? I mean, remember when he used to come in and he had Mark Longoria holding his cape, and then it was like a train at a Jewish wedding. You're like, he comes in, he's got like a 40-foot train, and Mark's doing like this and laying it out behind him for the
people throwing gold flakes in front of him to walk down.
Remember how before we had the camera, Michael he would stand quarter turned like that, so he looked thinner for the photos, and he had his train laid out behind him. And now it's just he's just wearing his straight out of the DC souvenir shop, the United States House of Representatives pullover T-shirt.
Now you know where I shop.
Right? I mean, dude, you walk in. I mean, you walk into the congressional gift shop, and they're like, the shirts are you got anything on clearance? I don't know how long I'm going to be here. You got anything on clearance over here? Hang on, I'm going to go and turn that because we want our folks to be able to really understand what you have to say today. And I appreciate you indulging us in a light moment.
Adam Daughtry says rose petals on the ground like Eddie Murphy and Coming to America. First off, congratulations on re-election.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's certainly an honor to serve again.
And we're certainly honored to be served by you.
Well, thank you.
And you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have to get
talking to a waitress. That is certainly an honor to be served by you.
Well, I don't have to get into, you know, the fact that you live here, you're committed to the district, and you know you serve the district, the entire district.
Meet your opponent? Have you ever seen your opponent?
I have not.
I don't think anybody here ever saw. Did he ever go to Corpus Christi? Not that you know of. Like you never had anybody say, "I met him. He's a nice man."
I was not sent his campaign schedule, so I
that is unbelievable to me. But
I don't know that
last week meet one person who had met him. So
I did chastise
his dad,
specifically his dad,
who was running for president in about 5 states.
I did chastise our community, not even on your behalf. You would never stoop to this level. That's why we have a radio show and you're in Congress. But in our quest to be not politically correct, I said, shame on those in this district that cast 70-something thousand votes for some bonehead from out of state they've never met, who's never connected with them, except that his last name was De La Fuente. I mean, I'm going to run. You know, we joked that Ricky D, our local city council guy, he ran as Ricky D to get the white vote. Now we got the whole Beto thing going. It's just De La Fuente. And I said, the folks that live in our district, no matter of race, creed, whatever, they all know that you're working for them in Congress.
Well, and hopefully we can get to the point, if we're not there yet, where we understand, and I think we're certainly moving in that direction. This election has even showed it, where people realize that, you know, ideologies don't have a lock on demographics
and pigment.
And people are beginning to understand what these conservative principles mean to their families. I saw someone say last night that the president has helped people understand that working class people have more in common than skin colors across demographics, but economic spectrum.
Yeah, everybody in our community, James Kerr says that sounds racist, Carl. He's being tongue in cheek. Everybody in our community, but certainly myself included, at all levels of work, we all work with people of other races. That's a beautiful thing about this district. We all work, play, eat, everything. You know, our favorite restaurant's Veracruz. I mean, come on.
At the end of the day, we want to be able to work hard, get a fair shake, and go home to our families and be able to build a better future for our kids.
And make a barbecue.
Yeah.
Some are better than others.
I have a challenge for you, sir.
That's why I leave it don't go much.
It's been given to me. I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
We need a man of integrity in Washington given the way that it looks like things are going to go, who can reach across the aisle with sincerity and humility. And if you know this person, anyway, we want you to initiate a Republican-driven solution, not just a revocation of Obamacare, but a Republican-driven solution that makes people feel like, okay, if I get sick, if a loved one is ill, I can get them basic health care coverage in the greatest country on the planet without having to sell my house.
Yeah, we need to reframe the conversation on that, because what we've seen is the more the government's gotten involved, the higher the prices have gone.
Yes, sir.
And so what you really want is you want people to be in a thriving economy so that wages are higher, and then the government out of healthcare so much so that the prices get lowered, and then you have more people having access to care. I remember one of the first conversations I had, and this was a bipartisan meeting in Congress that, among the freshmen at the time, and I said, we've been having the wrong conversation when it comes to healthcare. We say we're having a healthcare discussion, we're really having a health insurance discussion.
Correct.
And the goal, whatever the goal should be, whatever you think the role of government should be in the process, we should at least define the target that the goal shouldn't be more people in health insurance roles. The goal should be more people having access to care. And then we talk about the best way to get that done. And there was, some bipartisan, like, yeah, okay, we like that. We think that that's the right discussion, and maybe we should go after that. And we should all have health insurance. I'm not saying making light of that, but putting a middleman in any process doesn't make the process cheaper.
Well, the government is not efficient. We've all observed that.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Is it as simple as cutting corporate taxes and, if deemed constitutional, requiring every employer over 25, 50 employers, you must provide at least a portion, we can all work out all the details with the Democrats, a portion of their health care coverage premium, and you simply must take that, I'm going to cut your tax rate from X percent by 5%. That money goes to taking care of your people.
I'm always real cautious about giving the government more power. They
I agree.
Generally are not very good at that. I think there's probably better ways to approach that. Making it more affordable is really the biggest deal, and you do that by introducing free market principles into the process. And so
competition is an interesting thing, isn't it?
The problem is nobody knows prices for anything, so the customer's not able to hold the system accountable. And
$18 Q-tips and things like that.
Yeah, we have no idea and what's going on. And so the more we can do to introduce free market principles, it drives the price down, and then we can look at it.
Back when Obamacare was the hot ticket item 10 years ago, 12 years ago now,
yeah.
I had a hospital administrator who was sharp, said to me, if we all agree, at the time the number was 25 million people in the United States that were citizens, didn't have access to adequate health insurance or health care. He made the comment, if you would just pick a carrier, Blue Cross, send every one of those 25 million people a card and send the bill to the government, it would be cheaper than the total revamp, and now the government's got skin in the game, and the government can start saying, hey, I got 25 million people in my group, and I want to drive that down like they've done with Medicare. The government goes in and says, well, I don't care if you charge $500 a night. We're only going to reimburse at 60%. So there's your $300. Take it. And all hospitals base everything on a multiplier of Medicare.
Yeah, it's basically government price fixing.
Yeah. So yes, it is. It is. And while I'm not a fan, at least it drives the number the right direction. If you can get the government out of it, what's 300 might actually only be 200.
It drives it down after having driven it up. So
correct.
That's the tricky thing.
Yeah, right. The problem is, no matter how affordable you make it, there's people who don't want to spend their money on insurance or health care. They want it for free.
And there is nothing for free. I've always said that if you're going to say that something is free, it's going to be free college education. Substitute the phrase, it's going to be college education absorbed by the taxpayer. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Did you have my Aunt Betty's question on there for him? This is my Aunt Betty now. She's out on the plains of Texas, and she's probably going to come at you pretty hot. I don't know what it was, but she's educated.
And you don't have any, reason to answer her since she's not a constituent.
Right. You can just say, I have no recollection of that, Aunt Betty. We'll see how that goes.
So,
but while he's
I'm looking for that because it's up there a ways. But where are you? Here it is. Well, let's frame it with, how concerned are you about the integrity of this election?
I'm very concerned about it. I mean, remember, we've seen the weaponizing of the IRS, the weaponizing of the FBI. We've seen just collusion from the media to drive a false narrative, and it's really disturbing. I mean, when you look across the spectrum of some of the stuff going on, the fact that they won't let poll watchers in, even after a judge's order, is very telling.
That's the most problematic thing for me. I mean, you can hear the stories about, their computer programs that count the ballots, and they take, a fraction of a count here, and all of a sudden, because of the numbers, they can manipulate it. It's hard to catch. I've heard some of those stories, particularly in Washington State.
Yeah. It's very, I mean, if you think that voter fraud is very difficult to catch, I mean, it just is, and having said that, we're seeing instances all across.
Oh, but it's just anecdotal. It's not widespread, but these anecdotal evidences are coming from all across the country.
Right. Most people aren't going to sit there and re-postmark a mail-in ballot in front of somebody. So the fact that somebody catches someone doing it is extraordinary.
And you had a whistleblower on Project Veritas the other day from Traverse City talk about it, hidden voice and the whole 9 yards, which, 60 Minutes made a living off of those types of exposés in the 70s and 80s. And all of a sudden he's discredited because he didn't come forward without hiding his identity by the media. Well, the guy's probably afraid for his life because he's in Michigan. He works for the postal office.
We impeached the president.
These are the same people who propagated the anonymous book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turned out to be from a low-level staff member who was not really sitting in any sort of White House.
Yeah, just making stuff up.
We impeached a president over sources we weren't going to reveal.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's your Aunt Betty's question, Brent. Where are the other elected Republicans standing up with Trump? Mitch McConnell has already made statements that he would work with Biden, who is yet to be declared president.
I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself. I think there's, I think it might have taken a day or so for some Republicans who are giving a fair look at it to, some might, I mean, each one's an individual. So again, I can't speak for each one. I'm sure there's some that are a little timid about it to speak to it.
You think they're worried about their effectiveness, like in the House, where they,
No, McConnell's good. He just got reelected, so he's got nothing to worry about. He should be speaking out.
Yeah, I really can't speak for everybody else. The thing that I look at, I mean, there's just a number of different things that are going on that we can, we've seen. I just made a quick list of some. I mean, just the calling of states for Biden quickly, polls that have been overinflated, that was a problem. Stopping the vote in order, the president was leading on election night in a number of states, and I understand that it was going to flop back and forth, so I'm not.
But when does vote counting ever stop in election process?
It was the reason that it stopped, and I sat in a meeting months ago that talked about that, how they have figured out how to backtrack how many absentee ballots they would need to fill the gap, basically, and so they stopped counting in some of these states so that they could in the morning come back and count the Trump-heavy areas first, so that they'll know
what they need.
Right.
And it's certainly suspect. I mean, obviously, I'm here in Texas. I'm not sitting in Philadelphia or Detroit or Atlanta or any of these cities. So, I'm just saying that when I look from here, I don't see a transparent process. And I think that's what's troubling with the American people. The American people want the process to be fair. I mean, if Biden were to win, great. Well, not great. I mean, I don't want to when I didn't vote for him. But
if the process is transparent and he wins,
if the process was transparent, if it was the American people selected him, that's what elections are about, and that's what they're for. But that's not what we're seeing. And so when you see blatant disregard, I mean, I've said it for months. What's been tragic about the season of the country we're in at the level. And I have friends and neighbors who are Democrats. So this is not a casting aspersions on every your friendly neighborhood Democrat. But what we see from the national level is a willingness to embrace lawlessness to advance a political agenda. And that's we saw through the impeachment process. We've seen it now shift coming out even recently with the ultraviolet out.
Can you just throat punch that guy for me? I know you can get close to him. Just want to go, hey, Adam, whap! Michael Cloud arrested today in D.C.
That's what's tragic. We're a republic. We're supposed to appreciate the rule of law. And if we are at a point where there's not a mutually held understanding that we have to uphold the rule of law, it's tragic.
A piece of history that you lived through that I watched a really strong documentary the other day called The Plot Against the President about Devin Nunes. And have you met this Kash Patel guy?
No.
He seems like a really sharp guy. Oh, that was one of those top secret congressional. I can tell you when I'd have to kill you.
Well, I don't sit on that committee.
Right.
So, I've been down there.
But they report to me. You know what I'm saying? They report to me. No, but when I watched that documentary and they walk you through, it's almost it's nonpartisan, but it's obviously biased. It's because it's from the perspective of Mr. Nunes. But this guy basically saved the republic. I mean, you're looking at a time when they were talking about the Steele dossier, and they talked about General Flynn, and they talked about James Comey, and they tie it all back to the people that all these people were just not just loosely affiliated with, that they worked for. And you're like, are you kidding me? This was going on. I mean, and if not for Nunes, that one silver thread that held democracy together, they would have shattered what we've got going on.
Yeah, that's really, the unfortunate thing about our 24-hour news cycle is you get a bunch of headlines that drive ratings, and nobody ever really goes into depth on anything.
No.
That documentary is really one of the best things, I think, to bring together. But it provides the context for what we've seen in the news the last 3 years.
Right.
And it's extremely important, for anybody who really wants to follow what's going on, to be willing to take the time to, an hour and a half of watching that will serve you much better than.
It'll open your eyes no matter what side you're on. It'll open your eyes like, wow.
Because it actually goes into deep and lays out what's going on, stuff that never gets covered in that 2-minute soundbite.
No, and stuff that even if a more legitimate press outlet covers, they bury it in the last paragraph of their story, or not even the last, because people will read the first and the last. They bury it about the third last paragraph, and it never gets out there. Like the whole New York Times expose about the president's taxes. They waited until almost the end of the story to point out that he paid millions in alternative minimum tax.
Yeah.
But they focused on the 750 on line 56 or whatever that was of his tax return, and not the tens of millions.
And now,
AMT.
At least for conservatives, if anything's illegally obtained, they're not going to print on it supposedly.
Yeah.
Or they think it might be illegally obtained.
Yeah.
Right.
No, exactly.
Right.
It's we are in a tricky season in our nation.
How do you keep your head above the fray? I mean, we talk about it here all the time. And by the way, I think the vote obviously shows it, but our district is proud of you and the way you comport yourself and the way you handle yourself. I mention faith and family when I talk about you often. How do you maintain sanity? Basically, I know you're focused on doing the people's work, but how do you daily go through and ferret through? Because I'm sure people come up to you all the time. Congressman, do you have a comment on this? And I'm sure you've become very well versed. Not at this time, not right now. Mark, shoot that person. I know you have things you have to say, but you have
not shot anyway.
Right,
just for the record.
Ride the lightning, baby. Anyway, if you get a shot at that Jim Acosta guy, go ahead and tase him for me. But I'm just curious, how do you center yourself and say, okay, this is all just a bad nightmare, and we've got to stay focused on what matters?
I don't. That's.
See, Ash would just go vodka, but I know you better than that.
I mean, for me,
potato vodka.
My faith certainly is important. It keeps me centered, and also keeps me puts everything in perspective.
Correct.
I think so much of what we're dealing with, probably the biggest thing I would say when it comes to weighing the news and everything is the context. Because so often we see the headline or we see that news story and we're seeing that thing as the big, huge thing in front of us, and we don't see, it's cliche, but the forest for the trees and stuff.
Right.
So backing up and seeing what's going on now in the context of history, in context of nations, in context of what's going on. That's why, for example, a number of the policies, and I'm aware enough to know that some people have issues with the president's personality, but I'm able to embrace it because of policy. But it's being able to step back and look at what's going on the geopolitical map, look at where we're heading and what nation building makes, and those kind of things, to be able to have that kind of perspective. And then just all we can do is what we can do. So my responsibility is to do what I can in the realms of influence that I do have. And so, I try to be as effective as I can and just make sure that I'm doing my part, I guess.
Well, we think you're doing a great job. It seems to me that the president is, to a degree, playing chess. He always seems to be one step ahead. The other day when he came out and yeah, it was maybe a little premature. I listened to Chris Christie say something I actually agreed with when he said, you need to let the system play itself out before you declare the system to be flawed. And for the president to come out the morning after, on the 3rd, basically, and say, hey, we're going to be on this. We'll take this to the Supreme Court. All he was doing really was saying what's going to happen. We're going to have a disputed election. It's going to go to the judges. It'll go to the Court of Appeals, which is democratically driven, which is going to turn around and say, we declare Biden the winner, and then it will end up in the laps of the Supreme Court. And my only hope is that the 9th and deciding vote that sends the president back comes from Ms. Tony Barrett. That's all I care about. That's what I want. I want her to take her notepad and go, this is a no-brainer. Hello. Donald Trump's going back.
Well, I'm hoping the decision doesn't come out of the Supreme Court. Hopefully we're able to get the states to do their due diligence and somehow have people who are...
But they didn't do it from the get-go when they allowed people like secretaries of state to circumvent their processes and the Constitution.
In some of these states, they've been setting this up for the year. You look over the decisions that have been made over the last year, and it hasn't been to strengthen the electoral process. It's been to weaken it intentionally. And that's what's really suspect about all of this. So you're starting a year ago, intentional efforts to weaken this, and then we're sending ballots to everybody, every address, regardless of if they ask for it or not. I've talked to people in our district, even who are, I got a ballot for my husband who passed away.
Well, you heard the conversation.
And what would stop you? What would ever happen if you just filled it out for them the way you wanted and sent it back in? What would happen?
We have one of the best protected processes. I mean, you have to apply to get absentee ballot. So in these states where they're sending it to every latest known address or whatever, I mean.
And you're seeing posts on social media where people got 4 or 5 ballots sent to their home in their name, and names of others who no longer live there. I mean, it's crazy.
It's.
But way back when, you saw the memes on social media that said, "I'm really disappointed. I found out that my grandmother, a lifelong Republican, is going to vote for Joe Biden. She would have never done that while she was alive."
Yeah.
I mean, they made a joke out of it, but it's the reality that's what's going on. How concerned are you when I heard comments like Kamala Harris made about equality is when we all end up at the same place?
Yeah, that's part of this new theory that's being philosophical.
It's called communism.
Right. What the Constitution guarantees is equal opportunity.
Yeah.
And
here's the exact quote in her little video that ended with this: equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
Well, and the truth is, when you're guiding your own destiny, which is what we want, we don't want to end up at the same place. People. I mean, there's trade-offs you make. Some people more money, but
brilliant minds,
time,
right?
And I'm not saying that every job position's. I'm not saying
everybody's wired differently.
Right, but people are wired differently. They have different skill sets, different giftings, different callings, different different personalities, want different things in life, and the whole idea is that you have a country, and albeit imperfect, we're always working for that more perfect union, but compared to any other nation, we're doing it really good.
Nobody gets that.
I've mentioned it at a couple stops recently, but we were at a campaign event, a lady from Cambodia came up, and she had come here when she was 18 years old. And she said, I'm out here working hard because we can't lose. And she said freedom country. She didn't say United States of America. America's the freedom country, and it's the ability to be able to come here to guide your own destiny. And sure, where there's intentional discrimination, we need to deal with that.
For sure.
But
the opportunity exists for everybody to have that opportunity to succeed, however you define that.
Right.
And if you choose not to, the rest of us shouldn't have to be there to get you to where we are, because you either have no ambition, if the other things are stacked against you, somebody's holding you down because of your gender, your race, that's problematic.
Whatever. Yep.
But if you just have no desire to do anything, where's the problem in that except with you?
Your friend Pat McDonald says, too bad you don't have 2 hours. Michael, you see the young, fresh-faced, affable Michael Cloud. He negotiated 20 minutes with us 3 weeks ago. This man's like, I'll give you guys 20 minutes. After that, I'm getting surly. That's all we get. He's tough, people. You don't know this guy. He's tough.
Richard King says, I have a problem with nothing happening to the people that get caught cheating. And this is a perception. Hunter Biden's going to get away with everything that he's done. The Clintons have gotten away with everything that they've done. People in Washington seem to get away with things that nobody else would get away with. And that's
if you wonder why there's such a no holds bars approach to this election. It's taken the 4 years to really get down to the bottom of a lot of these issues. AG Barr wasn't working on the Durham report, which somehow got delayed. And that's a good question. Of course, AG Barr and all this.
BJ Nelson said Jeffrey Epstein didn't get away with it.
Where's the future of the Republican Party? Because you've seen long-term Republicans, Mitt Romney, John Kasich, just say, we're done with this president, and whether or not they swayed votes, I don't know. But there seems to be, and those who believe in true conservative values, like yourself.
The true divide in politics right now isn't Republican and Democrat. It's establishment globalism versus American first principles. That's the true.
And the rest of the world wants America to get on the same page they are. And I think because they're jealous that America still has the things that they used to have and aspire to and no longer do. So instead of trying to do that.
Positions of power in other countries do that, but even the president in his America First agenda has said every country should have if you're in Guatemala, you should have a Guatemala First agenda. It's not anti-world, and as a matter of fact, what we've seen is a period of peace, of extraordinary peace that we haven't had in a long time. We see peace deals being done. So this
in regions that haven't had peace forever.
In this quote America First agenda, it's not anti-world, and so you see people across the nations understanding that we're we want to be strong. And secure.
Have you heard anything about this global reset? That is, the suggestion is that the world kind of needs to be reset economically, and that what needs to happen is that here's the U.S. when our economy was just thriving, wouldn't allow for that global reset because the U.S. was just churning while everybody else was just kind of flat. Is there any logic that global forces would want to tear down our economy to get us all down to kind of the lowest common denominator, then we all just kind of either rise or don't rise or remain mediocre together?
I have no doubt that there's people who want that, but the thing we have to
China.
Yeah. And about a decade ago, you would hear Russia and Iran openly talking about reformatting the world into a multipolar world, which throughout history has been one of chaos. It's been one of extreme violence, lots of wars, those kind of things.
Devil's playground.
So again, for all the imperfections, the United States has been a stabilizing force in the world. And and there's a lot of issues with that. I realize, so we can talk through it.
Yeah.
But in general terms, the U.S. being strong has been a great benefit to the world. And so there are those who would like to reset that, of course. Now, there's what makes America strong economically has a lot to do with the natural resources that we have, the availability of the ports that we have across our coastlines, and the principles we've embraced in free market. And so
which could be free.
Not every nation is going to have the natural resources that we have. That's for sure. But we are also a beneficial trading partner to other countries. You know,
Correct.
We allow access to those resources in our nation, where other nations not necessarily would do that. So, you know, America's got a lot going for it, and we're much more generous to the world than any other nation would be at this moment with this power.
Can you come back next week? I think we got a lot to talk about. I've got a lot of questions from listeners. I'm curious. I mean,
we'd love to have you if you're in town.
Yeah,
and for maybe longer. Yeah, because there's a lot of things I think people want to know, and this could go on. This could almost be an hour-long show.
Yeah, with
what we're talking about, and I'd appreciate it if you could, because there's a lot.
Everybody's like they're blowing up a thumbs up, like, yes, let's get you to come back. So.
But I think
Michael's like, look, I just got elected. I'll be back in a couple of years, okay? I'll be back in a couple of years.
So we're well beyond our time. So we appreciate the time you had this morning to come in.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate
it.
Well,
thanks, Michael.
If you got a second, hang. We'll always take the photo up, especially when I got the guns going. Right. Hey, real quick, folks. Special thanks now at the end of the show. Special thanks to Allen's Record Service, 578-6300. Thank you, Alan and Janet and little Alan Miller, for helping us bring Congressman Cloud in studio. Same goes for VCS Companies, Rocket Oilfield Services, the only local owner and authorized AT&T retailer. Jim Hartman is listening live. We appreciate you, Mr. Hartman, and your support of this forum. And, of course, Chesnick Furniture Company, the great Bobby Leon and his family, your aunt Charlotte. Anyway, we've got
shout out to my nephew Mason watching on YouTube.
Hi, Mason, you YouTuber. And especially thank Chesnick Furniture Company, 116 West Juan Lynn, corner of Juan Lynn and Bridge. For 100 years, they've been bringing furniture to Victoria, and they do a tremendous job. And then JP Hull at Razor IT Solutions can help you study your analytics, encrypt your data, help you collect money and spread it across your QuickBooks via the internet, grow your Facebook presence, grow your internet presence, all those things tied all together and help you create a better brand. Reach out to Razor IT Solutions. Folks, that's going to do us today. Gary Moses just walked in, and the Hall of Famer Ralph